Senator Rand Paul details Anthony Fauci's long history of bioweapons research. Y'all know I've been talking about the evil Dr. Anthony Fauci for years now. This man has been behind some of the most evil things to happen on this planet, especially concerning AIDS and concerning HIV. I mean, concerning AIDS and concerning COVID-19. A lot of people don't know about the history of Anthony Fauci. Um, so we're gonna talk a little bit about that. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my merch store. Also, check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for news as well. All right, let's talk about this news here. Now, again, this is about um, Dr. Fauci and his foray into bioweapons research and how he made a lot of money behind it. He made a lot of money after the COVID-19 pandemic, and he refuses to release that information, how much money he actually made. I think there's some congressmen putting together stuff to try to get him to have to release some of that information. But this clip comes from the Liberty Daily. So shout out the Liberty Daily. Let's check this out here. By way of Rumble, I should also add, shout out Rumble. Here we go.
Is that the debate over gain of function didn't begin with this. This is at least a 10 to 15 year long debate. There are scientists on both sides. One of the most vocal scientists is Richard Ebright from Rutgers. He has 175 peer-reviewed papers. He's been the editor of the Journal, I think, of Molecular Pathology. He's esteemed in his field, but he's been fighting with Anthony Fauci for 15 years because when they discovered that they could create the Spanish flu again, when they discovered they could take the avian flu, which normally doesn't attack humans very well, but is deadly when it does, and they made it more transmissible to mammals, there was this huge debate over, should we keep doing this? And one of the most alarming quotes, which really tells you who Anthony Fauci is in 2010, 2012, he was asked about this, and he says, well, you know, there are some risks. We could get a pandemic, could occur from these experiments, but the knowledge is worth the risk. And, you know, that to me is just, it turns out to be one of the worst judgments probably of any public official ever, at least in my lifetime.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because why would you create these diseases? Why would you create these things that could possibly get out to these bioweapons labs and get to the general public? And I mean, these are stuff that could destroy our world. I mean, imagine if COVID-19 was a lot more deadlier than what it was. Imagine what that would have done to the world. My goodness, my goodness.
And he still doesn't regret it. He still hasn't gotten it, and the media still cover for him. I mean, some foundation gave him $1 million prize. He's still lauded and feted by the liberal left as if he were some great savior.
That makes absolutely no sense. They gave this man $1 million for what? For what?
But he funded the research that I think led to maybe as many as 15 million people dying worldwide.
It's really incredible, and beyond funding that research and beyond lying about it, when we look at the scientists, you know, that we're looking at, Anderson, these guys that originally, the very beginning, we've seen their emails now saying, hey man, I don't know how you explain this inside of Nature, really, saying things like I'm 90-10, I'm 70-30, depending on which one of these scientists, all the best in their field. Tony Fauci gets a hold of them, we see him reach out, and then suddenly they all fall in lockstep and change their tune and say definitely natural, and beyond that, beyond lying about it, then basically say anyone that says otherwise is a conspiracy theorist. They label you and reporters like me, and basically now we're under attack for pointing out all the obvious issues. But here's the point. Tony Fauci made all these statements on the stand. He's under oath, is he not? Number one, he created it. That should be a crime unto itself, especially if it was illegal. We still are not quite sure what the legalities of that gain of function are.
I think it was illegal. From my understanding, when it comes to gain of function, under Obama, surprisingly, and I'm no fan of Obama, but Obama banned gain of function. So really, this shouldn't have even been a thing. But they got around it by funding it in China, and that should have been illegal too. I don't think. I think it was illegal to actually fund it in even though it was in China. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I know gain of function being done in the United States was illegal by Obama's orders.
But then you cover it up, and then you go even a step further to basically get people to lie about it. We send a fake group of people to go and do the investigation that were all involved with EcoHealth Alliance, so they were a part of their own cover-up. I don't know a lot about how the government works, but how is it not treasonous that an American diplomat, a politician, went out of the way to cover up a problem inside of a Chinese laboratory that, as you pointed out, is responsible for more deaths than just about, I think, than any bioweapon that we've ever imagined being released on the world?
Without question.
He has to cover it up. Fauci has to cover it up because his name is all over this. That's why Fauci is caping for the Chinese government.
And it's a felony to lie to Congress. And I reminded him that he was under oath and that it was a felony to lie to Congress. And he wagged his finger at me and the American people and said, we never, ever funded gain of function research. But we now have an email from February 1st, 2020, where he says, the virus looks manipulated. We're very suspicious. We know they do gain of function research there. And he lists a research topic that was going on in that lab, which just turns out to be one that he had been funding. So he's essentially admitted that gain of function research was going on, that we had funded it. That's what he's saying in private. But in public, he's saying the opposite. All of the other scientists, Christian Anderson and the others, are saying in private, like you say, 90% chance it came from the lab, or 50-50, or 60-40. They're still saying this privately for weeks on into February and March, while they're publishing articles saying the opposite. Coincidentally, Christian Anderson gets a $8 or $9 million grant that's signed by Anthony Fauci in April of that year. So there is money, and the money.
So corrupt, so corrupt. I mean, it's very, very difficult to trust these government scientists that's be getting these grants and things like that, because they do it. They skew their own research to secure these funds. All you have, if you think that's not true, all you have to do is look at the global warming stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. They totally ignored anything that's antithetical to their hypothesis. They ignore it and manipulate their research to fall in line with their hypotheses. It's ridiculous.
Changing hands here. They like to say that they're defending science and science would be damaged if people thought it came from the lab. They're defending the business of science. These are not high-minded people who just want to cure cancer or, control disease. These are people getting paid billions of dollars. And I think, Robert Kennedy has probably recounted this better than anybody else, the connection to bioweapons trade and the fact that after 9/11, we put so much money into this, the military-industrial complex became consumed with this, and a lot of the money gravitated to Anthony Fauci. I've actually compared him to J. Edgar Hoover because their tenure's about the same and their abuse of power is very similar. And it's the abuse of power, I think, that can go to anybody that has a fiefdom or an area where they completely control with absolute control.
I like that. I like that analogy, that comparison, I should say. I'm gonna call him that from now. I'm gonna call him the J. Edgar Hoover of science. That's who Anthony Fauci is.
At one point in time, there's a committee that wants to control gain of function. I think it's back around 2010, 2012. Anthony Fauci fires them all. They call it the Saturday Night Massacre. He takes a full-fledged scientific committee, they're all about the science. He fires them all because they wanted to put controls in place on gain of function research. This is the kind of dictatorial power that he's had. and has been so damaging. But it's also an argument for controlling power, not letting too much power gravitate centrally to any one individual,
Yeah.
make sure they're not in that position very long. So one of the legislation that I put forward is to divide Anthony Fauci's position into 3 different positions, have them approved by the Senate, and have all 3 positions term limited.
I like that idea. I love that idea. Anthony Fauci is an evil man, and it's crazy that people still glorify this man, knowing that. But he was the one that supported this gain of function stuff. Millions of people died because of it, and he continues to lie about it. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time.